What's goody? It's your host Jay Rose as always, and Mavs Clippers game 2 just wrapped up, and you already know I got a bunch of thoughts about that game. We're gonna get straight into it. Over 90% of the people that watch my content are not subscribed, so if you're messing with the videos, please hit that sub button and the noti bell so you'll get notified every time I upload. But let's get back to the hoops. I feel like this is the first point that has to be touched on because it was such a big factor in this game, and it was the Maverick defense. I've never seen the Mavericks look this locked in on defense ever. I've never seen the Mavericks play the defense they've played to that extent ever in my entire time being a Maverick fan. To have Luka Doncic, who only had, I think it was one official bucket scored on him. I'll go check right now. Yeah, or two official buckets. A James Harden 3 that may or may not have been on him, and an Amir Coffey 2 that was definitely on Maxi Kleber. So I'm just saying, in my book, Luka ain't get scored on the whole game. And regardless of if it didn't get scored on or just 2 buckets, he held whoever was guarding him to a bad night. He was locking down Kawhi Leonard one-on-one ISO. He was locking down James Harden one-on-one ISO. I've never seen Luka Doncic this locked in on defense. And of course, us having better defensive pieces like PJ Washington, DJJ, Derek Lively, Daniel Gafford allow him to do that and allow him to get more space. So if he does get blown by, there's a guy at the rim or there's a guy coming with the help defense. But this team defense was absolutely amazing. Very impressed with Luka. Very impressed with Kyrie. He had great hands today. Super impressed with PJ Washington. Got scored on here and there. But honestly, PJ Washington is a real thing, bro. I've seen PJ get locking down defense. Put the clamps on these guys. And I feel like the only person to really make PJ uncomfortable on defense has been Paul George, and I feel like everybody else has been a great assignment. So kudos to PJ, kudos to D Live for game 2. His effort, his rebounding, it was all there. He had a much better game than it wasn't all there. He couldn't score. Nobody could really score. We'll get into that though. He had a much better game than Daniel Gafford, and I appreciate that. He came in, gave us energy, gave us the rebounding we needed. Played very, very good defense on Zubats. He just had all the energy. If we could look at the other side, we have Russell Westbrook, who was the energy guy for the Clippers. He absolutely had an integral part, even though he shot terribly, 2 for 9. But he had a huge block. I believe he had a steal too. Came in, got a bunch of rebounds. Westbrook was definitely a huge key piece to why this game was so close down the stretch, especially because if we go and look at the box score, we have a guy like Paul George here who only had 22 points, shooting 7 for 14. Paul George played with foul trouble almost the entire game, so that definitely hindered him today. Kawhi Leonard just didn't have a great showing, shot 7 for 17, 0 for 5 from 3. Like I said, Luka was playing good D on him. PJ Washington playing good D on him. He just couldn't get it going today. He looked rusty. I'm not expecting him to come out and give them 15 points again. Same way I'm not expecting PG to come out and only take 14 shots again, only have 22 points. However, with that being said, I don't think Paul George has had a good series so far. These first 2 games, Paul George has not been anything special to me. I'm not necessarily blaming him for this loss because he didn't play unspeakably bad either. There was a lot of things that the Clippers could have done better in this game, and shot making is definitely one of them. We can look at Paul George, who shot 2 for 5. Kawhi Leonard, 0 for 5. James Harden, 2 for 10. Terrence Mann, 1 for 3 from 3. Westbrook, 1 for 3 from 3. And then we had Norman Powell, who was 2 for 4 from 3, but 2 for 10 overall. So we can see after that super hot start they had game 1, 26% from 3 today, 36% from the field. This was not a great game for the Clippers. It just wasn't. And you would think that the Mavs had a great game coming out and get this W, but besides the defensive side of the ball, the Mavericks did not have a great game in my opinion either. Luka did not shoot great from the field or from 3, which is very uncharacteristic from him. He's been very, very efficient. Same with Kyrie Irving, shot great from 3. Couldn't really put it all together in terms of the middies and the layups today. It was just a bit off. Every time he was getting to the rim, the defense was collapsing super fast. Those are makeable shots for Kyrie Irving. They're still tough, and when they're not hitting some days, you're going to get the 8 for 18s because those are tough shots, and the defense was collapsing on him very hard. PJ Washington hit his shots. I have to give him his kudos because he did hit those shots, but they were so very wide open that if he didn't, I would have been concerned. We needed every one of these buckets, to be honest. Down to the last 3-pointer that man hit, we needed all those PJ Washington buckets. He came up huge, and honestly, the role players are going to be it for us. It's going to be it for us. I expect Luka and Kyrie. This is a baseline for Luka and Kyrie. These are 2 bad Luka-Kyrie games. This is a bad Luka game, and this is a bad Kyrie game. And we still got the W. So I'm really not too worried about it, especially because we didn't get the contributions from our role players that I think we could have gotten. Gafford played horribly, only played 9 minutes. Then we had THJ, who got hurt in 6 minutes. We had D-Live, who came in, gave us effort, but he couldn't get anything to go in the bucket either. Josh Green couldn't get anything to go into the bucket. Dante Exum looked like a negative on the court most of the time when he was out there tonight. So honestly, it was just DJJ and PJ Washington. D-Live showed up. Everybody else was kind of Maxi Kleber had the game-winning rebound. He had some big threes as well. Overall, as a team, besides the defense, I don't think we played our best basketball. I think the best basketball for the Mavericks is still yet to come. And I'd be really looking out for that if I'm the Clippers, because not only did they come in and lock you down today, they didn't even really play great. This is not a baseline Maverick game. This is not a baseline Maverick game offensively. And it wasn't a baseline Maverick game defensively. For what they lacked offensively, they made up for it defensively. I feel like if we can get a balanced breakfast with the Mavericks playing some pretty good defense, and we get our regular offense going, we get our shooters going, we can get some paint play out of Gaff and Lively, that we're going to blow this team out the water in the next couple of games. I feel like my perspective on this series hasn't changed much, and I feel like a lot of people has expected it to change after we lost game one. I feel like the Clippers came out and stole game one. They shot very well. It was an uncharacteristically good shooting game for them. And after that game, my take was I'm not worried about it. We're going to come out in game two. Kawhi's going to come back. The game plan is going to completely change. And I'm telling you, no matter what, with Kawhi in the game, they're not shooting 50% from three. So that's not going to be a problem again. And we're not scoring 8 points in the second quarter again. It's not going to be a problem. This is a completely different series. Game one was an outlier. I think game two is more like what I expect this series to look like more than game one. So, with that being said, yeah, I think the Mavericks can definitely play better. I think even the Clippers can obviously play better too. Like I said, I don't think Paul George is having the best series, not the most aggressive, wasn't super efficient in game one and got in foul trouble game two. Kawhi Leonard, first game back, he didn't look amazing. Luka had him on clamps. PJ Washington had him on clamps. It wasn't. There was also shots that normally he'll hit on these days with those contested middies when he gets hot. Those are butter. So I'm sure we're gonna see a hot Kawhi game. But like I said, we haven't seen the best of Luka. We haven't seen the best of Kyrie. We haven't seen the best of the supporting cast. What we have seen the best of, surprisingly so far, is James Harden. James Harden absolutely came out and had a great start to the series. 22 points. He shot 6 for 14. He could not hit a 3 though. And honestly, this game was super reliant on his free throws. It was the most annoying thing about this series is how chippy it is for everybody except for James Harden. When James Harden takes a jump shot, flails his arm out, it's an auto foul. But literally everybody else, including Kawhi, PG, Luka, Kyrie, getting smacked all over the place, and the fouls just aren't coming as frequently. James Harden led in free throws by a long shot. Even though it was only 9 in a game this chippy, those 9 free throws were huge, absolutely huge, especially for a guy shooting 2 for 10 from 3, and 2 of those fouls were on 3-point attempts where he just flailed his legs up into the air. So, like I said, shout out James Harden, still having a good series, 22, 8, and 6. I can't argue with that. But I do feel like the refs are playing into his favor a lot more than even his teammates. I don't want to say his team is getting a lot of good calls or a lot of calls that we're not getting, but James Harden specifically is getting a lot of calls. Facts. Yeah, besides that, I'm expecting a turn up from Kawhi. I don't know what we're going to get from PG, and I don't think Harden is going to be as efficient or as good going forward. That's just me. Especially off their home floor. I think it's going to be very interesting to see what these role players do. It's going to be very interesting to see what Harden does, and it's going to be very interesting to see what our role players do. I feel like on our home floor with the MFFL, the Mavs fans for life yelling in their ears, I guarantee you Gaff is going to get some energy. I guarantee you D-Live is going to get some energy. I hope THJ can come back because he's definitely one of those guys who at home is an issue. So we'll see, man. At home, after game 3 and 4 are finished, I expect the Mavericks to be up 3-1. That's all I got to say about that. I expect the Mavericks to be up 3-1. And that's not me saying that I don't think the Clippers are good. But respectfully, after the moves we made in the trade deadline and seeing how good our offense is when we're running at full extent, I don't think the Clippers are really fucking with us when we reach our peak, especially at home. Honestly, if we lose a game at home, I'm going to be a little tight. But if the series ends up being tied 2-2 going back to LA, I'm also fine with that. But I expect it to be 3-1. Honestly speaking, I'm just going to speak my mind here. I feel like LA stole game 1. And I feel like y'all had the momentum going into game 2, especially having Kawhi come back and then losing that game in such a close fashion. The dagger that dagger that Luka hit, the big threes from Maxi Kleber, the big rebound from Maxi Kleber, how we handled ourselves down the stretch in the clutch. I think that's a real momentum shifter for Dallas, especially going home. I think winning this game was super fucking huge, and I think the momentum with that carrying into Game 3 and Game 4 will give us the 3-1 advantage 100%. I think we have a great I think we have a great footing after winning tonight. All the LA Clippers fans are talking about how this loss means nothing. I don't think so. I think we just stole one on your home floor when y'all should have had two, realistically, how Game 1 ended. So yeah, I'm real confident going into Game 3 and 4, and I'm expecting the Mavericks to go up 3-1. These playoff recap videos have been fun, bro.